Well guys, it is finally here, the Warrocks in action. So this archetype recently got unveiled, and a lot of people were interested in trying out a new deck. This one's all about Earths and Warriors. Unfortunately, they don't really have like a boss, like extra deck monster. They're kind of just like these monsters that would just simply gain a small amount of attack. At the end of the day, a lot of them will just increase them by 200. So the thought process is pretty much you can go ahead and make 5 monsters, and in total you get 1000 attack. What are their effects? It's more so just bringing back one of their more powerful monsters, which you will see several times in the gameplay over here. I've got lots of different gameplays, a variety from lots of different players here, just so you guys can see an example of different builds. So shouts to the other people that were piloting the Warrocks, because I was uninterested in running this deck myself, because I looked at it and was like, there's no way you can make this good. And are they good? We're about to find out right now in today's video. But I just didn't see anything out of them. I mean, looking at all of their effects over here, we'll briefly go over the monsters over here while the Martin Says player takes a while sometimes for some of their turns, as it is kind of a deck where it has lots of stacking stones. But pretty much from here, you'll see Fortia is able to make it so if any of our Earth Warrior monster battles after damage calculation, you get to add one, except for itself, and then they all pretty much boost up in some way by 200. That's the majority of their effects. But if this card is sent from your monster zone to the graveyard by opponent's card effect, you get to bring out a level 5 or higher Warrock monster, which you'll see very soon what monster we will be bringing out. But Gactos is another important card. These are kind of like the smaller cards to go into the bigger cards. But Gactos has the effect of, if the Earth Warrior monster is normal summon, you get to bring out this card as well. And it has the effect, if it's set from your monster zone to the graveyard by opponent's card effect, you get to bring a level 5 or higher Warrock monster from your hand or deck, which lets you bring out one of the more powerful monsters, which is the Warrock Bashilios. Bashilios has the effect where during the battle phase in which your Earth Warrior monster battles, as a quick effect, you can make it so this card can attack directly this turn, but then also all Warrock monsters you currently control gain 200 attack until the end of your opponent's turn. That small attack boost is just not relevant enough, I would say, in the game, especially for what is, as right now, this is like their big powerful monster. There's also a couple interesting tech cards that you'll see in this first duel that you won't see in the other ones. So Shield Warrior makes so during damage calc you can banish it. It's another Earth Warrior, so it has some synergy, I guess, with the deck. A lot of people were trying out other things, and that's what I really want to share with you guys. But at the end of the day, getting that effect to maybe try to swing in for the direct attack, unfortunately, is just not too viable of a gameplay style. There's just too many negations that exist in the current format of Yu-Gi-Oh! To be able to make this deck be viable. It not only cannot deal with boards going in, with the exception of maybe the Rock Mountain. I guess some of the cards, like if you get rid of these cards, they have the ability to maybe grab back another card if they're destroyed by like a card effect. But we're just going to bring out Bashilios. He's just 27 attack. That's really, at the end of the day, not enough. Maybe if they had like 4,000 attack, or just a massive amount of attack to begin with, or even if the boost was like 500, and that's still not enough. 200, I think the number is way too low, and on top of that, they need the ability to not only break boards, but also disrupt during the opponent's turn, other than just beefing up their attack. I think they need, like, the field spell needs to be a lot better, or they need some back row that's a continuous that just makes it so, like, if only you control Warrocks, you might be able to stop your opponent from doing things. But I do have one really good duel on it. Requires a lot of setup, but there is a way to make great use out of this deck if you have this right combo setup, which is really rare to actually pull off, but you'll see it in the video today. But anyways, this is another card that actually helps him out. It's the Warrock Mountain. So when it's activated, you get to just add any Warrock monster from your deck to hand. So really great that it replenishes itself. And then at the start of the battle phase, if you control no monsters or all of them are Warrock, you get to special summon a Warrock from your hand with a different name than what you control. And then on top of that, it still has another effect. If your warrior monster would be destroyed by battle, you get to send this card to the graveyard instead. The problem with the Warrocks, you can just bounce them back. You can just do so many things to them. Some of them do have bonus effects, like Bashilios can technically come back, although when it does, come back, it will banish itself when it leaves the field. It's whenever your Earth Warrior monster is destroyed by battle, you can bring this back. It almost reminds me kind of like the Machina Colonel Citadel card, but that card has a good quick effect where it pops everything and it can come back off of like anything, which is just a lot better. But again, I want to give you guys a variety of duels up over here so you guys can kind of see what it can do. Now, obviously, Eldritch, a little bit more of a competitive deck over here. I mean, I know Marincess aren't the most competitive, but Marincess actually have a lot of things up their sleeves that prevent like the Warrock player from kind of going off and being able to just smack directly. But even then, like, you're just gonna get your card effects negated most of the time. This guy opts to make a Flame Swordsman, because like, what do you do in Warrock's turn 1? Like, this guy decided to go for Flame Swordsman. I'm like, oh, that's not even like that bad for the archetype, because it does have an effect, right? It boosts up all by 500. It's kind of like synergy with the deck, as the deck, all it does is increase the attack of the monsters by, again, 200. Is not more. Flame Swordsman, which no one really plays, has better stats on the boost. But anyways, you get to bring back a non-link warrior monster from your graveyard and special summon. It's still, again, too weak at the end of the day, especially since that other card, the field spell, which everyone, of course, in Warrock's going to play. Like, this guy's trying to make some use out of some of the more meta of cards, but going here, if all of them you control are, if all monsters you control are warrior monsters, you can special summon a Warrock. So it does still work, because it is still a warrior. So I guess that kind of helps. But again, I just think that even in this guy's running a volcanic variant of Eldritch, which is kind of interesting too, but I just think that you're going to get out-resourced even by a deck that's not like set up bunch of negations. Again, if you see the matchup against the deck that would have multiple negations, this deck just falls apart real fast. But the problem is that you don't have any stun to your opponent, leaving your opponent to do whatever they want. There's no really insane back row that stops your opponent from doing anything. So if your play is like summon one Warrock, rely on that card being destroyed, and then getting out another like Bashilios or something like that. I guess you have the field spell too, but you can just go into Unicorn, bounce it, and then what do you love blank board? It's just not that great. But I promise you guys, we got one good gameplay over here with this. Now, I know it's against Red Eyes, but keep in mind, this archetype needs to play against like low tier to even be able to do anything. But in this one instance over here, he actually makes a Nat Beast turn 1, which is actually a pretty good card. He's also setting up with Imperial Iron Wall and Skill Drain, as a lot of the Warrocks. They'll get that effect where it activates in the graveyard. A lot of the effects are like Battle Phase and Graveyard. We won't be getting the boost here, but that boost it's not enough, like I mentioned before, to be viable. But what is viable is turning everything into warriors, and then all you control is warriors, so it works well with Warrock Mountain. After you can go off with your plays, it can kind of be okay. Unfortunately, I feel like Mountain, it should be like once per turn. If the warrior would be destroyed, you can just stop it from being destroyed. It doesn't have to send itself to the graveyard, because then you don't get the other bonus effects. The whole archetype, it needs a lot of work, honestly. But I know a lot of you guys wanted to see the gameplay, and a lot of people were saying before that, like, not every deck needs to be, negate 10 times per turn or be able to break insane boards. And while that is true, not every deck has to do those things. This deck just seems like it's just outdated. Like, even if it came out like a couple years ago, Pendulums would run all over this. Like, it doesn't have really anything going for it other than attack boost. But attack boost, it's not really relevant on the game unless you're like 4K plus attack, and even then stats don't really matter that much. What does matter is being able to maybe pop a card in the field or negate this effect. That's what the whole archetype needs. But because of this instance over here, and I even asked you guys over in the community tab over on my YouTube page, and this is pretty funny over here. I want to pause this so you guys don't miss out on the duel, but I went ahead and showed you guys, let me show you guys what I was talking about, like new challenge. I asked you guys in the community, I'm like, so I'm trying to get gameplay with Warrocks, and like, I haven't seen anything good. New challenge, win a duel with Warrock. They even said Amazon is better. Like, it's just not viable, no chance. I asked if it could even like do anything, like, not only against the meta, but like, I was wondering if it had anything going for it, maybe an obscure combo. Sometimes people do figure out, weird things. But here's what you would need for the deck, I think, to be like a little bit better. It requires too much of a setup. Like, you have to have your Bashilios ready to go because it's less strong monster when it comes out, right? And then you have Iron Wall, so it can never be banished because it gets banished when it leaves the field, but if Iron Wall's there, it doesn't get banished. I don't think DNA surgery is 100% necessary, but I think skill drain definitely puts it more on the same page, as most of the cards can get that effect, where it's sent from the monster zone to the graveyard via card effect, or if it's destroyed, you get to bring back something. So like I'd say the setup would be Iron Wall, skill drain, and then you would probably have to stall with Mystic Mine for a good amount of time, and then you build your board, and then you get rid of Mystic Mine with the field spell, and then you attack over. That's the only thing I could see this deck actually doing, like, ever. And the thing is that skill drain is not the most hot thing, because, well, look at what skill drain's at on the list right now. But he ends up making a Blackluster Soldier of Chaos, throwing up also another mine, so he can stall out for another turn here. But this was summoned with a 7 or higher monster, so it's not like you can't link summon with the deck, but then you just go 2-. I wish the card effects would, whenever it was sent to the graveyard, if it was used for link summon, it would be able to do something, bring one out from the deck, bring one from the graveyard, just anything to make this deck at least somewhat playable, but it's just not here. So again, the only time that this deck is going to be able to win, I think, is you either get skill drain or you have Mystic Mine, which both of these are cards where, like, if someone flips up like a Mystic Mine, a lot of people just quit because it's just not fun to play against. Like I mentioned before, you throw up the Mystic Mine until you have the advantage you need. And the guy, wow, he lost connection. What a coincidence. He just had a Return with Red Eyes and an Instant Fusion over here. But that was the only time I've seen Warrock's been able to do anything. But I'll give you guys a brief little deck profile. I'm not going to consider these like meta or anywhere like near competitive, but you know, for the people that do want to try out the deck, I'll give it to you guys. So there were several different builds showed off. Shout out to all the players that were playing here. Cade's deck was what I consider a little bit more meta than any of the other ones. He was also running one of the newer cards, Reinforcement of the Army's Troops. So this card is pretty cool because whenever they would attack you, it's kind of like having another copy of Warrock Mountain. It came out and was announced at the same time of this, but it's not just for Warrock. So when anyone decides to attack, involving a warrior monster, you can special summon a level 4 or lower warrior monster from your hand, so that you can just summon the small ones, which basically all really try to get Bashilios either added to your hand, or you know, you're gonna be able to summon it from the grave eventually when they get destroyed. So that's like another card that I think is just way too slow. There's another card I didn't get to mention, which is the Warrock Ordeal. So you can only control one of them, but when it's activated, you can place 3 counters on it. Whenever a Warrock monster destroys an opponent's monster in battle and sends it to their graveyard, you can move 1 counter from this card. If you draw 1 card. If the last counter has been removed by this effect, you get to send this card to the graveyard. So you could go kind of plus with it. I mean, it's +2 at the end of the day, but you need to have these Warrocks survive and attack, and you know, Supply Squad is almost just as good, you know, when you're able to get that reoccurring free plus. But this card technically requires you to get rid of their monster by battle and send it to the graveyard, which sometimes it bounces back, you know, gets banished. There's a lot of things. It's just outdated. But another thing that you can do in the deck is go for number 41, stall out like you would with, you know, in 41, set up your board, then you can go for game. But anyways, I'm going to mouse over these cards. It's kind of fast over here because there's 3 different gameplays here, and I want to show you guys all the deck profiles. And even though one of them didn't actually have an extra deck, I'm not sure if he was trying the Pendulum card, because sometimes when you go into the replay and extract it, if the card has been updated and that card technically just came out, I'm not sure if he was playing that, but I would see no reason not to have an extra deck. For this one, you can see this guy's actually playing with Puppet King over here. Interesting little tech card, but this is where he was set up, and we need to go to the TCG here, but you can see skill drain at 1. He had the ultimate setup. Like I said before, I think this is what you really need for the deck in order to really do anything. I've seen a few people try is sold, but what do you do with the soul? You go is sold, activate. You could play a much better variant of warriors, like he was trying with the Flame Noble Knights. You just play Flame Noble Knights is much more what I would consider viable in the game. But this one up over here was also playing, there's a DNA Surgery, there's a Murasama Blade. I'm not really sure the point of this. I think that there are better options, like Power of the Guardians, or there's better equip cards. I don't know, he was just playing this. But I figure I'll go over some of the cards over here. But this Zubaba General lets you equip a warrior type monster from your hand, and then maybe you get into the grave. Again, I just think the whole archetype, it's just underdeveloped right now. So yeah, I think in the future, there was one card I did thought was kind of interesting that this guy was playing. He's playing Magnum Shield, so you equip it to a warrior monster, and if it's in attack position, it gains attack equal to its original defense. And surprisingly, they all have the same attack and defense. Like, the big boss monster would be 5,000 plus damage, which is kind of cool, but again, just attack is not enough in the game. I would probably not run Rainbow Life. It's just like way too slow, outdated. He's even running Curse Seal of the Forbidden Spell over here. My guess is maybe he didn't want to get wrecked by like Lightning Storm, but again, this card's outdated. Same thing with like Dark Bribes and stuff. Like, I'd rather just run Solemns, as like there's no like incentive to increase your life points with this deck. But that's going to be the War Rocks as far as the gameplay goes. Maybe in the future they will get some more support, and it can be good. You know, it just depends on the future and how well they support the archetype. But I think as of right now, I would say the deck is not ready. But feel free to disagree in the comment section below, or what else do you guys think that this deck would need to add to make it really good? Or if there's any cool combos that you guys didn't get to see, you know, and you know about them, I would love to know, because I wanted to cover this deck or an archetype, but I just thought it was so bad, and after watching the gameplay, I'd have to say it's still bad as of right now, but the future may look bright for them if they get some really open. They need Spellbook of the War Rocks, and then maybe we're looking at something. But anyways, I think it's not ready right now. But anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel here, want to see more new Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, hit subscribe, turn that bell, and you'll definitely see more in the future. Once again, shout out to all those players for playing War Rocks, because I wasn't going to do it. Anyways, I'll catch you guys in the next one. I'm out. Peace.